My guest today is a certified trauma-informed and women's empowerment life coach, helping women heal from their current or past partner's porn use, infidelity, and betrayal trauma. She has over 380 training hours and is certified as a women's empowerment life coach, advanced trauma relationships coach, trauma-informed somatics breathwork facilitator, and meditation and mindfulness teacher. Wow. She's committed to raising awareness and educating society about the devastation of this kind of addiction and the negative impact it has on relationships, like the trauma it leaves behind. After experiencing her own betrayal, my guest now uses her platform on Instagram, her women's support group, and her podcast, WTF Do I Do Now, to spread the word and help others overcome the trauma and heal. Aside from advocating against porn, my guest loves spending time in nature, the beach, hiking, doing yoga, traveling, celebrating being single, and reading about inspiring women throughout history who have helped pave the way for other women. We talk relationships, gaslighting, manipulative behaviours, and how to recognize the signs that perhaps your partner might be keeping a dirty little secret. So sit back, relax, and get ready to take some notes, ladies, because this episode is a doozy. Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining another episode of the Skin I'm In podcast. I'm your host, Chanel, and this is a place where women can tune in to gain peace through clarity, purpose through inspiration, and the permission to be themselves through the stories of other women. If you're enjoying these episodes so far, click the like, share, and subscribe button so that more women like you can be positively impacted by the stories in this podcast. Hey, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to the Skin I'm In podcast, Mandy.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I'm so excited for this chat.
I know I've been thinking a lot about you lately, and your posts always make me chuckle because you bring this humor to a topic that's really not funny. And I love that you inject that into your posts. So I'd love to know why you come from that perspective when you talk about the work that you do.
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. First of all, it's selfish on my behalf because I'm posting about this stuff all day. I want it to be enjoyment. I want to have fun. Yes, I totally understand how difficult and crappy of a journey it is. It's a very serious matter, but I feel like the more I go on my healing journey, the farther I get away from when the betrayal happened, the more I'm able to look back at it and just laugh. One, because a lot of the pain is gone, but two, mostly of just how absurd of a situation it is and how unfair and how unjust it is. Where it's I feel like I took the time to process the emotions and go through it. I think that's so important to do. But I also think it's just nice to be able to have a little bit of a lighter approach once you kind of reach a certain part on your healing journey. And I just want other girls to be able to laugh. If I can make a girl laugh when she's just been crying all day and she can come across a post of me talking about some shitty thing my ex did, and she's wait, my ex did that too. And also just creates a bond among females to be in a way, we're all kind of dating the same guy. They all act the same way. And so it just also helps you feel less personal to know that oh, this guy was doing other things to other women. It's not just me. It's not it's not I'm not worthy enough or something's wrong with me. It's just how these men in this situation are acting.
Yeah, and when I think about that, I love that perspective because I would think that it would also lessen the burden on our pain to know that, someone else has been through it. It's not great to know that so many women go through this, especially with the rise in, porn use amongst men. But it would kind of give me the thing of, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. That means that it's not me. So you went through something pretty horrible. Can you tell the listeners? I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes. What happened? How did you find out?
Yeah, so I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version because if I go into full details on everything, we'll literally be here for 4 hours. I could create a whole TED talk just around what happened. So really, really long story short, I was living with my partner. We were in a multi-year relationship, had a dog. I thought like he was my soulmate. We were having conversations about getting married, like all that stuff. And then slowly towards the end of our relationship, I just had this gut feeling that kept telling me like something was off. Like even a year into our relationship, I started going to a therapist and I was like, hey, I feel like my partner's hiding something from me, but like he's so good on pen and paper. Everyone in my family and like friends like love him. He treats me so well. He does all these nice things. Like he's like, I've never had a man treat me as well as he does. And now I look back, I'm like, okay, he was just like love bombing me. But so I started going to therapy for this, and we didn't talk about him too much. It more so started just to talk about like me and family things. But I'm getting a little bit off topic. How do I reel this back in? It's just such a long story. There's so much to say.
But it's so relevant. I think a lot of that is relevant because I've been down the road as well, and we've talked about this of where you doubt your own intuition, and that doesn't
Yep.
come from him. That comes from somewhere within you that's
Yep.
missing. And so when you go to therapy, when you're like, I need help, something's going on, it always comes back to the conversation about you, where you're at, where your self-confidence is, and what's missing within you. So it's totally relevant. What did you end up finding? Or did you end up finding that there was something there that made you doubt your own intuition?
Yes, 100% to the woman's intuition. That's something I try to communicate so much with my clients too. I'm like, our woman's intuition is so strong, but we just try to talk ourselves out of it. But so what happened was there were just like really small things that led up to this point. Like for one time we were on a date night and I saw that he had a second Instagram account. And I was like, that's really weird. You would have a second Instagram account. He's like, oh, like it got hacked, and just made up this whole elaborate story. And again, I'm like, yeah, we lived together. Why would he be cheated on me? So I dismissed it. But then there was like another time where I thought I saw him have a dating app on his phone. Like I panicked, I freaked out. I asked him about it and he's like, oh no, look, like nothing's on here. Like he deleted it quickly, then showed me it. So like small little things like that, where it's like, it's not a big enough of like a macro thing for you to end a relationship. But when you look back and see all the red dots or the red flags connect, you're like, damn. But then the final red flag was it was just like a normal day. We had both been laid off from our jobs during, we both like kind of worked in tech, and so we got laid off during mass layoffs when that tech industry is being really hit. And I was studying in our office in our apartment to be focusing on this like breathwork teacher training that I was going through, and he's in the room across sitting at the desk, and I just hear him pick up the phone in this like really flirty, really weird voice, like, hey you. And then he left the apartment. And I just bent over and like literally grabbed my stomach, like, oh, what the fuck just happened? Like my body just knew something was wrong. And he came back inside.
Wow.
And I even like remember writing the time down on a piece of paper. I looked at what time, because I wanted to see how long he was going to be outside for. Like my body immediately went into like, okay, we're going into protection mode. Like we need to figure everything out. So he comes back in. He's like so happy, like beaming, so happy. And it's like, who are you just talking to? He's like, oh, my dad. Like he was just calling me. We finally figured out all this like car insurance stuff, and like had such an elaborate, detailed story that actually did make sense because he had been talking to his dad about car insurance stuff. And I was like, okay, I guess. Like again, I was like, we lived together. How could you cheat on me? And then we go on dates later that day. Like we're having such a good time. We're with the dog, like going to all our favorite spots. And then that night he was sleeping on my lap. We were watching our favorite show, and his phone was sitting out, and his phone never sits out. Like he always had it in his pocket, always carried it with him room to room. And it was sitting there, and I was like, I have to go through his phone. And speaking of just like synchronicities from the universe, like I don't know, like maybe like 2 to 4 days before this, I was in the emergency room because I had an ovarian cyst rupture because I was so stressed. I was like, I think something's going on in the relationship. I feel like I'm going crazy. Like he's perfect on pen and paper, and like it must be me. I must be the issue. But my body was screaming at me to wake up. And so while we're in the emergency room, I see him type his phone into see him type his passcode into his phone. And I was like, weird, that's not what it was 2 years ago when I knew what it was. So like, thankfully, a few days before, I saw the code, and then his phone just happened to be sitting out. I was like, this is a sign, I have to go through it. So I go through it, and it was awful. Like, the person he was on the phone with that day, he was actually FaceTiming a porn star. They were talking about meeting up to get a hotel room together. I saw their whole like text conversation. They're sending each other nudes back and forth while we were on that date. She's kept mentioning this girl's name Jess. And I was like, who the fuck is Jess? And he just kept referring to her as his girlfriend. I was like, my name's Mandy. Things just were not adding up. And so, yeah, that was the start of me finding out that he had a secret porn addiction and a secret sex addiction. And he was on polyamorous dating apps with this girl named Jess. This Jess girl came into his life before he even met me. It was really weird. So he was cheating on me the entire relationship. I had no idea. And that's when I learned what betrayal trauma is, and just learning about this world of like a lot of men having secret porn addictions and women just feeling blindsided when they find out. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I want no woman to ever go through this, and that's why I speak up about it now. Sorry,
oh my God, there's so much to unpack. Okay.
Right? Just trauma dumped.
I'm like, I knew most of that.
Yeah.
But he had this Jess person, and then he thinks to bring you into his life as his normal, stable foundation day to day. And he's just out there dick swinging with porn stars. How do you even meet I mean, I guess it's easy these days now with OnlyFans, but I just think to myself, how do you even meet porn stars? And then say like, let's hook up.
Yeah, so I can tell you exactly how they met.
How
and
did they meet?
surprisingly,
I don't know if I want to know.
They met on Bumble. So
Oh my God.
his whole way of like meeting with girls is Jess had a Bumble profile of them two. And then she set her settings as bi, so she would get matched with girls. Jess would find the girls and match with them, and then be like, hey, by the way, like, this is my boyfriend, would you want to hook up with him? So then she was basically like a pimp. And I'm not saying like she was, I don't want that legal disclaimer or anything. She wasn't a pimp. She's like a normal girl. But yeah, so she was finding people for him on all the dating apps.
So hang on, let me get this straight. He had every slice of the cake and he wasn't even doing any work. He didn't have to pick up the girls. Is that what you're telling me?
So yeah, not really. Yeah, he had his system. Like, he had
oh my God,
it was brilliant.
That's like
it's
evil
brilliant.
genius shit. That is evil genius shit.
Yeah, and it took me so long to even be able to figure out all those details, because of course, like, it was just getting like so much misinformation everywhere, and essentially another girl from his life ended up reaching out to me when I came forward with everything, and she actually helped me put some of the pieces together on things, which, yeah, another reason why I love women. We will help each other figure out information.
And we are literally the best private investigators you will ever find.
So good, because a woman's intuition always knows something's off, and we will dig until we find that information.
Yeah. It's, I don't remember if I told you this the last time we spoke, but I think I did. When I found out my ex was still talking to his ex and all that kind of stuff, like you, like I'm not the kind of person that goes through people's stuff. I'm just not. Right. I'm like, if God wants me to know something, God will speak to me. It'll just come. The truth always prevails. And this one day, we had a huge fight the night before. I had slept in the spare room, and he goes to work early in the morning. So I had gone to make the bed, of course, because he hadn't. And his laptop was just sitting there. And I heard the voice of God say, open it. And I literally looked up outside the window, and I was like, really? Like, you're going to want me to have this on my conscience? And I heard, yep. And I was like, it's ridiculous. He has passwords on everything, but okay. Got his laptop, opened it up. It was a MacBook, and he has an Apple iPhone, and it just logged in. No password required. I was like,
oh my gosh.
And I was just like, I've got no idea how to use Apple products, right? But on this day, I just became one of those Apple people at the store. And I just started just typing things and looking at things, noticed that he had two folders. One folder was all his ex, and he had called it past. And the other folder was future, and it was all our photos. But I was able to find this little thing that I guess is the icon for messages on an iPhone. And I started reading through all the messages he was going through with his ex. And to her, you know, I'm actually really, she was trying to tell him to back off. And she kept saying, because he kept going at her and messaging her. And she's like, sorry, I haven't responded. I'm just being mindful because you have a girlfriend now and I've got someone. And, you know, but she's trying to be nice, I guess. But at the same time, there's all these photos of her in a change room. Like, what do you think of this outfit? And then photos of her with her legs just showing a little bit of her panties. Like, they were sending all these photos back and forth to each other. And it was during COVID. And I remember him saying, he had already said, I love you at this point, right? It had been like 6 or 8 months in where these messages were going back and forth. And he's saying to her, oh, it's too soon to tell. I mean, it's just COVID. Don't really know where this is going.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember thinking, you pig.
Yep.
We just bought a house together. You pig.
No.
Like it was, yeah. So it was bad. Like we were in that house for a month before when I found everything out. I had the house for 3 months and I put it back on the market.
Oh my gosh.
So it was hell. But so many things, it's like you said, so many things happened beforehand. I had issues with the mover that didn't show up at the time he was meant to move me out of my old apartment. Right?
Wow.
He just went radio silent on me for the whole day and I was crying and shit was really bad and he was getting angry at me. And I'm like, instead of being supportive, like he's just getting mad at me, and he went off for a drive. Like he'd do random shit like that. And I was just like, and he carried his phone everywhere with him too. So
yeah. First of all, I'm so sorry you went through that. That's horrible. No woman should ever have to go through that. And especially like seeing the photos, that's awful. But it's creepy because now that I speak out about this more, there's so many girls who come to me with a very similar story where like I found photo albums on his phone of other girls, and it will be like girls they know or like girls they went to high school or college with or like their own siblings. And I was like, it's so terrifying just how much it can escalate and just the damaging effects and consequences there are for girls that have to be on the receiving end of that and having no idea that's going on. And it's also interesting how you mentioned, did you say you just moved into the house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hadn't lived together before that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I've also heard so many stories of that where the girl, like it was right before they're going to get engaged or after engaged or right before they're going to get married or right before they're about to move in, where they find out this major piece of information. And that's actually what happened in my last relationship too. Like 2 months before we moved in, that's when I started going to a therapist because I was like, we had a weird slip up in the relationship where he like wasn't being honest about ex-girlfriend. And but I look back now, I'm like, dang, that was like God or the universe trying to be like, no, like I'm going to put information out to make you not move forward with this and like try to stop it in its tracks. So yeah, it's so weird how much just things add up like that when you're able to look back and see it.
I remember at the beginning, and I'm thinking about this because it's a domino effect. At the beginning, when I questioned him why his ex-girlfriend was still on his Instagram, he said to me, it's girls like you that make us think women are crazy. And I was like, I'm sorry. Normally that would have made me crawl into my shell, but I was like, I've just questioned you as to why you're still friends with your ex on Instagram, and that's your response. So, and that was really early on. But like you just said, like there are so many signs that try to stop you, and there were a million. I could literally list them off the top of my head, and it was like 4 or 5 years ago now. But I think to myself, okay, men think that we're crazy because our instincts go off, but it's really because we've just found something out about you that you didn't want us to know. And we take that, if we don't do the healing work, we take that into the next relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
anything that resembles even the slightest, if there's the slightest similarity, our instincts go off. So no, it's not that we're crazy. It's that we have trauma. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you find
Yep.
someone who is compassionate and understands and is actually not doing those things, that you're not putting yourself in a space where you can heal from that. So when
Mm-hmm.
you have girls coming to you, in a one-on-one capacity, because you now coach women who are going through these things, what are they coming to you with?
Yeah, I would say it's a mixture. Some girls are like, I just discovered about the addiction and I left and I just feel stuck. I feel behind in life. I feel like all my friends are married or engaged or in long-term relationships. And now I'm just the single friend and I'm just like behind and stuck and like they lost their identity. They were such like a girlfriend or wife, like they just lost their whole image. So it's really just like rebuilding that and be like, okay, like how do we, yes, process these emotions and grieve them and grieve the relationship you thought you had, but also mourning the relationship and grieving your future. But also how do we like work on regulating your nervous system and doing that from a trauma informed lens so that you can then move forward and rebuild and create a new life and create a new identity for yourself. But then on the other hand, I'll have girls come to me who are still in the relationship and they don't know if they want to leave or not, and that's fine. I think every relationship is different. Like some relationships can reconcile and work through it, or others, the man is just such an entitled piece of ass. I don't see it ever working out. But my that's a side note. But my whole goal is just like empowering the women and like helping her learn like what healthy and unhealthy signs are in relationship, and just again like nervous system regulation. That's my number one thing I want to focus on, because like we can't take in any new information. Like it doesn't matter how many books we read or podcasts we listen to or coaches or therapists we like watch on social media. Like if you cannot regulate your nervous system and get out of that fight or flight mode, you literally will not retain any of that information anyways, and it's just going to be trigger, and you're not going to be able to move forward. So the main thing I try to do is just like nervous system regulation, and then from there we create on like building this new you, building a new life, and helping you move forward in confidence too.
What are some of the things that you notice are the first signs? I feel like that intuition piece, when you feel like something's not right, like that's the first sign.
Yep.
However, are there signs that you're coming across in the sessions that you're speaking with women? Because I feel like it changes, and it changes rapidly because it's so accessible now, porn. Like when I was in my
Mm-hmm.
20s, this was not something that I didn't even know was a thing. Like it was so taboo. No one ever spoke about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you noticing that there are some signs and signals that, women can pay attention to that not necessarily start making them suspicious? Because we don't want people to start, super sleuthing around their relationship when there's no need to. But are there things that come up that seem to be consistent in the conversations that you're having, that some women who may be in that situation right now just have this feeling, can be like, you know what? Yeah, he does that. And he does that too.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind and that I hear the most is intimacy, like having sex with the person. And this was one of my biggest like red flags too, because we weren't having sex often. Like even when we first met, we weren't having that like honeymoon phase where we can't keep our hands off each other. And we would like I would have like multiple conversations with him where I would just be crying in tears, being like, I feel like I'm the only one initiating sex. You never want to have sex with me. This hasn't been a relationship in past, or there hasn't been an issue in past relationships. Like usually we're having like sex all the time. Like I'm young, I'm horny, like I want to have sex too. Like this, you're not meeting me halfway. And it was always just like, oh, like I'm tired, or oh, I'm stressed with work. They're just such like easy to believe excuses. Oh, like, okay, yeah, maybe you are stressed, maybe you are tired. But the more I started like researching that after the fact, and even actually side note, the therapist I was working with, I didn't know it at the time, but she specialized in porn addiction. So once I like able to tell her everything I found, she's like, oh my gosh, she has a porn addiction. This makes so much sense. And so then we were talking about intimacy. She's like, that's one of the big red flags of it. And that's something I hear a lot with other girls, where it's like either the man isn't initiating sex at all, they're not having it often. And I even like don't talk about this much on social media because I get so many comments of people being like, oh, well, like throughout relationships as you get older, you just like have less sex. It's normal. And like there's so many people dismissing it, which sure, of course, that's normal too, but like it's just different when you're not having sex because this sex drive is low compared to when you're not having sex as your guy is jacking off to other girls every single day. Like that, like, they don't have any sexual energy because they're getting their sexual desires met by all these other women. And but then I've also heard other women who have gone through it who are like, we were having sex all the time, like an insane amount. So it's not like one or the other, but also something to look for when it comes to the sex is just like something for me, and that I've heard other girls too. It's like, it just didn't feel like he was like physically he was in the room with me, but like intimately, mentally, and emotionally, he wasn't there. Like he would avoid eye contact a lot, or like he couldn't finish if we were like looking each other like in the face. He'd always like have me from behind or something, and it just felt like I was just like an object to him. And there'd be times after sex where I would just cry because I just felt so used. Like he never did anything aggressive, like nothing like that. But it just feels like so emotionless, and I just never had that issue in a relationship before, which just felt very odd to me. So that's something. Also, obviously, just like being weird about the phone usage, like that. Like even just like taking the phone with them everywhere, like room for room. Like I do that a lot as a person too, just because we're all pretty addicted to our phones. But like taking it to the bathroom and being there for like 45 minutes, like multiple times a day, like, sir, if you're in the bathroom that much, like go to a digestive specialist to see if something's going on. But a lot of times you'll hear men who were former porn addicts being like, yeah, I would just go to the bathroom and watch it because that's like your only private place to be. But I'm
Who
trying
wants
to
to
think of
jack
other
off in a
ones.
bathroom? That's just gross.
I've heard of guys jacking off like in car parking lots, like on like driving to work, like in the work bathroom. Like it's like anywhere they can. Like, okay, great. Like, let me get my fix in right now. It's yeah, it's wild.
Just even call like I just times have changed so much. And maybe it's because I don't know. 20 years ago this wasn't such a thing. But you and I both know that this is a
Mhm.
well-oiled system that profits and benefits from the mental degradation of men and women.
Yep.
And it's literally shrinking brains.
Yes.
Like the brain
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
What are some of the other stats that you come across with what porn is actually doing to the minds of men and women now?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of ones that come to mind right off the top of right off of my head. So something that's really worrisome about porn in general is it's very similar to cigarettes, where you become desensitized to it and it becomes an escalated behavior, so you need more. So like, for example, like when someone starts smoking cigarettes, they start with like one cigarette and then it escalates to two and then five, and then you're smoking a whole pack a day. That same thing happens with porn because of how addictive it is. So you might start by watching it once a day or a few times a week, and then you need more and more and more and more and more. So then you find yourself doing it multiple times a day, or finding more intense content, which is then you even enter into like child pornography or bestiality or incest and rape and like gang rapes. And it's heartbreaking how much the level of content escalates. So that would be the biggest thing. But I feel like I'm not an expert when it comes to how it impacts brains, just because I also know there'd be like neuroscientists out there that would like correct what I have to say so quickly.
Totally.
Because if I say like one word
Yeah.
incorrectly, so I'm like, I'll leave like the like experts up to that. Like I love Fight the New Drug has such an amazing resource called Truth About Porn, where they just talk about all the ways it impacts your brain, and they don't do any of the research studies themselves, so it's third party, so it's very reputable.
Right.
So that's an amazing resource to go to for more. But I do have some stats that I'd love to share on how it impacts relationships, if that works.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I'll read these word for word just because I don't want to ever like give false information about stats. So this one always shocks me. So a study tracked couples over a 6-year period, and the goal was to see like what factors influence their marriage quality and satisfaction with their sex lives. And the researchers found that all the factors they considered, porn consumption was the second strongest indicator a marriage would suffer. So like there are so many research that say if porn is in the relationship, it's going to suffer. And in this specific one, since porn was the second strongest sign a relationship would suffer, the first strongest sign was just that the couples are already unhappy before the study started. So take that with a grain of salt. But when I read that, I'm like, wow, okay, so porn is the largest indicator that a relationship will suffer if you're happy in a marriage, which is crazy. And then there's another study in 2011 that found that individuals who watched porn alone reported higher rates of cheating on their partners, and they were twice as likely to cheat compared to couples who didn't watch porn at all. And then individuals who viewed porn alone and with their partner reported 3 times the rate of cheating. So I remember, yeah, it's wild. And I remember when I was first confronting my partner about his porn use, I was like, I just feel you're going to cheat on me, and it freaks me out. And I've heard that from so many other girls. And it's like, yeah, because it teaches you to objectify women. So you're not viewing women as equals or as people who have thoughts, feelings, and emotions. You're just viewing them as this object. And yeah, it's over a screen, but eventually that's how you're going to start to look at people in real life too, including the woman that you love, which is, yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And then another study from 2015 said that women whose partners consume porn tend to experience more psychological distress, feel more objectified, have poorer body image, and are even likely to develop eating disorder symptoms. So whenever, like, I feel like something that's so hard about betrayal trauma and like discovering porn use or porn addiction, as the woman, you're like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I be attractive enough or like fulfill his sexual needs enough or whatever? Maybe you just blame yourself. But I think it's so interesting, like hearing that study being like, almost every woman experiences psychological distress. They all feel objectified. They all have poor body image, and most of them develop eating disorder symptoms. Like it's just such a widespread, like, and it's just so sad how much it impacts women who didn't even sign up for this. Like, we didn't want to be in this relationship with the porn use. Like, we thought you were being honest about who you were, and now we have this trauma because of you. Fuck that. Like, that just feels so entitled to me to be a man and to bring this into your relationship, knowing what you have, but you just don't speak up because you have shame, which I understand that there's shame, but I still don't think that excuses lying and cheating and hiding this from your partner. Like, I just don't think you should even get into a relationship if you're not ready to be fully honest with your partner about what you're bringing into the partnership.
I get the shame piece, right? I get it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I think to myself, you know, what you're doing is naughty. Like, you know, right, that you can't talk about it because you know how women feel about it. It's like, it's similar to, you know, guys going to strip clubs. And I don't understand. I do and I don't, right? Because I sit here and I'm like, well, why wouldn't a guy want to see it? They're so simple-minded in comparison to us. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They actually are. There are studies that show that our brains are so different, and women's brains are so much more complex, and our brains wire and fire very differently. And what men need and what women need are very different. And so I understand that in a way they have more basic instinct desire type needs, and they want to see a woman naked, and it's just easy because then there's no responsibility of anything after that, right? And so there are, when I think of unpacking this conversation, I think to myself, men just want something quick, easy, and zero accountability at the end of it. So is that what we're teaching, or is that like a basic instinct type behavior? Because when I look at the animal kingdom, I watch a lot of documentaries and I love animals. So, you know, a lot of the time, women, when they're ready to mate, they will go spray their bits on things or, you know, whatever, and they choose whoever they want to mate with because they need to fall pregnant. And then the guy just kind of pisses off and she raises the children for the most part. And so is it a natural thing for men to do that, or is it that we've taught our boys to do that as women and as men, you know, as a mother and a father? So that's one aspect of where my brain goes. And the other is that if women just stop doing this to themselves in the sense that stop doing porn, stop being a stripper, have some like self-respect and go do something and make money in a more, respectable way. My opinion, obviously not everyone's opinion. If women stopped that, then men wouldn't have that to fall back on. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg situation for me, because who's responsible? We both are in a way, but then who's responsible for it being such a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. So something I can add on that, and what I've discovered about like the porn use and the porn star, I had so much anger towards sex workers. I was like, fuck all of you for putting yourself even in this situation for men to just lust after. But then I also like had a reality check. I was like, well, no, fuck my boyfriend. He was the one that was like going against my back. These girls aren't doing that. Like it's him. He's the cheater. He's the liar. He's the manipulator. He's the gaslighter, not them. But I did come across this really sad stat. I think I'm going to get the percentage wrong, but I want to say it was like 64%. But saying 64% of women who are sex workers or strippers, well, I guess those are the same, experience some type of child abuse, like sexual child abuse when they're younger. And sometimes that's just like a trauma response when you experience something at such a young age, or really any age, that then you either go one of two ways, where like you want nothing to do with sex, you're like, I'm cutting off from all that, or the other route is like you just go so heavily into it because that's just like your body trying to find homeostasis from a trauma response lens, which is extremely sad. But even aside from the women, going back to your comments on the men, my personal opinion is that we are just way too easy on men, and just do the boys will be boys, and just like don't hold them accountable for the shit that they're doing. And I do feel like a lot of it, of course, comes from like childhood upbringing. Like even at like when you talk to like young schoolgirls, like they're not treated as equals to men even in school. And I feel like men just grow up with this sense of entitlement where they don't look at women as equals or partners. They're just like, women are like a tier down from them. And that makes me so mad too. And like I understand the shame aspect of the addiction, but to me, I'm like, at what point are we just going to start calling it domestic violence and entitlement that the man is bringing into the relationship? Like let's call it what it is. Like you're intentionally gaslighting, manipulating, lying to a person because you know they won't be with you if they find out who you really are. Like you are literally stealing someone's sense of reality, and the psychological distress you're going to cause this person is so profound. And what shocks me is when I'll hear men be like, oh, I just really didn't think that my porn use would bother her. And I'm just like, there's no way you genuinely did not think that you jacking off to other women's naked bodies every single day, having fake social media accounts, having fake Reddits, like meeting up with sex workers, you generally didn't think that was going to hurt her. There's no way you can be so disconnected from reality. Like that's, I don't know, that's
a cop out, Mandy. That is such a
right?
Oh, I didn't know. That's like anyone who's trying to not be accountable for something. Oh, I didn't know. Like,
Yeah.
get fucked. Like, that
Yes.
makes me so mad. And I love that you just said, like, we are too soft on them. And I hear all the time, boys will be boys. And that gets me so like riled up, because I think to myself, well, no, you're telling him by saying boys will be boys that it's okay, that this is his behavior and he'll eventually grow out of it. And I see, parents do it from a very young age to their little boys. And it's a lot of them are females. Boys will be boys. He'll just push you around. That means he likes you. Rubbish.
No.
So you spend the rest of your life going after guys who push you away and are really distant, and you're like, oh, it's because he likes me so much, he doesn't know how to deal with it. Like, it's such crap that we're feeding young girls, and then they grow up to be, I use this word not in a derogatory way at all. I use it from a book. I don't know if you're familiar with Why Men Love Bitches. And
no, but I'm intrigued by that title.
Oh my goodness. Someone passed it on to me during a really tough time in my relationship. When I actually moved back from overseas, and I'd left my fiance at the time, and I was really struggling. And so now whenever I find another woman who is in a place where I'm like, you know what, that's where I was, I either gift them the book or I recommend the book. And while we've gone off topic, in the book they call it's The Bitch and the Doormat. And so when I read this book, it taught me, at first I was like, this is pissing me off. It's telling me to be different to who I am, which is someone who's very giving, very nurturing, super loving. But what I didn't realize, and this was my takeaway, it's not everybody's takeaway, was that I was doing that to people who hadn't yet proved that they were worth all of those valuable things that I had to give. And so you're either a doormat or you're a bitch. And when they use the word bitch, they don't use it in a way that we would, try to offend someone. It's someone who is selfish and putting themselves first. Right? Yeah. And so I don't remember why we got on this round. I'm like telling you about the book, but anyway, I had it's completely have gone off why did I bring this book up? So I was going to call it a doormat, and I was going to say
we were talking about how we were too soft on men. Boys will be boys, not being held accountable.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so that when I read that book, I realized, wow, I've been a doormat everywhere in my life. And I literally let men walk all over me. I let women walk all over me. I used to let friends walk all over me just because I was like, no, people want nice girls. Nice girls finish last, Yep. No, they don't. But,
nice girls with no opinions.
Yep. Don't say anything unless you're spoken to. Just sit there and look pretty. Don't be too kind, difficult.
Be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what gets you in all these unhealthy relationships. I can relate to this so much, and I feel like even when it comes to like healing from whether it be a narcissist or a cheater or a porn addict, like, you have to get so selfish with your healing, and you have to set such firm boundaries with people, because you don't even like, going back to what we were just saying, like at such a young age we're taught that women have to be soft and up and sweet and kind and gentle and just like not be too opinionated. And well, that's what makes you become a doormat. People just walk all over you. And it's not that you have to be like a raging bitch. That's not at all. It's just like having boundaries for your time, for your energy, and showing people how you expect to be treated. Like if you're not going to put up boundaries, a man will latch onto that so quickly and just walk all over you, because I feel like women, it's a blessing and a curse. We are so loving. We're so giving. We're so nurturing. And so we expect that men or this other person will be like that too, but they're not, because they don't have our hearts. And I don't know where I was going with that, but just some thoughts.
Yeah, and look, while you were just saying that, I was just thinking to myself, it's that balance of the masculine and feminine, right? Women have become so rooted in masculine energy that we don't know anymore how to be soft and nurturing and all those things while putting up boundaries, because to us, and I don't know about you, but my upbringing taught me that if, as long as you're pretty, thin, and marry well, you're a successful woman, right? So there was never a thing about going and studying and going opening businesses and whatever else. It was always about how well you married and what the size of your waist and if you're pretty or not. But growing up in that environment, that just taught me. So that's what I did. I was like, you've got to get the prize bull. You've got to tame the wild animal, and you're the one who's successful because you are the only one that could do that. And that just sets you up for all kinds of heartbreak and failure, because you're literally chasing guys that love the chase. They love being chased, and they love the chase for themselves as well. So, again, growing up, you just think to yourself, boys are meant to go sow their oats, and women, it should be good girls, because when they're ready, they're going to come looking for the good girls to marry. And that just pisses me right off.
And then even on top of that, it just has you chasing, like spending so much time on your external appearance and what life looks like to other people, and how your hair looks, how your skin looks, like your physical appearance, and just how your life is perceived, that you don't even take time to like work on the inner you, like your feelings, your emotions, your childhood trauma, like actually healing that to become the best version of you. And it just sets you up for failure. And I feel like so many women have been spoon-fed this, I don't even want to say false lie, because it's not always true, but just like the number one thing you need in life is a male partner. And then once you have that, you'll be all happy, and like there'll be no pain in your life. But like there's still so many other areas of your life that you need to nurture, like your career, your health, your friendships, your sense of community, your hobbies, your activities. Like, it's not like one is more important than other. We need them all to have a full, like, healthy ecosystem.
And if you don't nurture the self, Mandy, like, it's like, how are you supposed to find the right partner? How are you supposed
Yeah.
to know that when something comes up, your intuition is spot on if you don't know
Right.
to listen to your intuition? So one of the things that I turned 40 this year, but I think to myself, when I was in my 20s, my intuition was so loud, and I suppressed it and suppressed it. I was like, no, I'm crazy. I'm the one I'm insecure. I must be insecure. And so I just
Yep.
put it so far down that I was like, it must be because I'm insecure.
Yeah. But no, it's not. Yeah. And
Now I
it's
know. Geez, now I'm married and my filter's so strong. If this version of me was out in the dating world, wowza.
for sure.
Not that I want to be dating this day and age.
Yeah.
It's so bad out there from what I hear. And one of the things actually I'd love to get your perspective on to see, what you're seeing in your work is, are you finding that some women are like, you know what, fuck this. I'm just going to live a promiscuous life because if guys can do it, so can I. And they're actually choosing to go from who they really are to sharing themselves with guys that they don't necessarily like, or, trying to change who they are to try to fit into this landscape that we've kind of got at the moment.
Yeah. I feel like I don't come across too many girls who are choosing that route. A lot of the girls, but I do know a lot of girls in general do that. Just because like hookup culture is just so just like ingrained in us subconsciously, we don't even realize it. But I would say for the most part, a lot of the girls I speak and work with who left their partner and they're going back in the dating world, like they might have like a guy that they have like some fun with for a very short period of time. And then they just like realize they're not ready to be dating, or something happens, or just even to begin with, they now have like such low self-worth and insecurities about their body where like, they don't even want to be physically intimate with a man because one, you don't know, like, is this guy just addicted to porn? Is it going to be another cycle all over again? Like, is he just going to be comparing my body to all the girls he sees on his phone every day? Like, is he just going to be comparing me or thinking of other women while we have sex? So like, and I actually see a lot of girls choosing not to be intimate with men and just focusing on themselves, which I think that's so powerful. I'm like, hell yeah, go girl. Like nothing bad will ever come out from just focusing on yourself. Yeah, but then again, it also sucks that one of the reasons that girls are doing that is because we just feel so like betrayed sexual, like it feels scary to open ourselves up to someone like that. But it's not a for everything, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I wonder sometimes too, right? Like, it's so easy for guys after a breakup to just go jump on the next available female. And for us, we do tend to, like, I don't know if it's still a thing, but I was going to say I wonder, but I'm thinking of experience. Whenever I've gone through a really significant breakup, especially in a relationship where I have felt like they're not attracted to me, or I don't feel beautiful anymore, to find that person that suddenly makes you feel amazing, even though you're not really interested in him, there's that sense of kind of filling your cup back up to remind yourself,
Mm-hmm.
no, you've still got it. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what you look like. I really believe that everyone has something so beautiful about them, regardless of what they look like. And some
Yes.
of the best looking people have the worst personalities. So
Yes.
I just think to myself, we're all beautiful in our own way, but there is something about that first, person you interact with that just adores you, and you feel so good about yourself. And I totally get that if you did get intimate, you'd be like, oh no, I'm not ready for this. But those compliments and those moments of being seen is everything after experiencing that level of trauma and betrayal. Did you go through something like that after your breakup?
To be honest, I got really grossed out by men. like,
I mean, what you went through was pretty shit. Like, that's not
I was
standard
like,
shit. That's a lot of
like,
shit.
yeah. But I feel like in a different way, like my male wound has been more healed from finding like good guy friends and being like, okay, like I don't know. I tried dating for a while and I was just like, I just don't feel ready for it. And it just like wasn't that fun. I was like, I just have so much more fun when like I'm out with my female girls, even if we're just like having a movie night, or like doing something. It's like that, like our conversations are so much more deeper. We're actually having like very meaningful conversations about life and like the purpose of life, where it's like, I feel like it's very rare to have that conversation with a guy, especially like a guy you just start dating. So like, I don't even want to spend my time on that right now. But finding like healthy guy friends has been more helpful, just to be reminded like, okay, good guys exist. Not all men cheat. Not all men are addicted to porn. And I didn't have to find that out by getting hurt again. So that felt nice.
Do you think that a guy and a girl can be friends?
Yes and no. You know what? I'm going to start.
Yeah, I sit in that too.
I'm going to say mostly no. And I say this because all of the guy friends I had, they weren't like for long years. It was like each a different one depending on where I was living at the time. And it is frustrating because you had to make it very clear that this is just like a friendship, but also in the back of your mind, you know that they would hook up with you if they could. Like they're a man at the end of the day. But I do think men can respect boundaries. Like, okay, this is just a friendship, and I'll just leave it as that.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that it's usually from the men's side. That's why, like, I just think to myself, I think it's funny when, especially, you're in a relationship and you continue to keep certain friends of the opposite sex while you're in that relationship. And I think that there's a certain point, up until a certain point, that it makes sense to. But once you realize that you're in a serious relationship with someone, whenever you include someone that is of the opposite sex into that equation, there's always going to be some kind of thoughts. And I don't necessarily think that it's insecurity. Like, you can please correct me, but I don't necessarily think it's insecurity. I just think it's being respectful. Like, especially if I would never, ever, ever, ever go have dinner with one of my, I don't care how long I've been friends with one of my guy friends, and I've had long-standing friends, but we spend time together and then I move away and then we spend time together and then I'm back. Like, I'm kind of in and out of their lives. But I would never go and have dinner with a guy and leave my husband at home. I'm like, no way. No way. Can you imagine if someone saw me? I'm like, I am a representation of my husband when he's not around. But also, I would never want to make him feel like he can't be part of the conversation or something. But even then, I have never kept my guy friends close to me when I'm in a serious relationship. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I lost all of my guy friends when I was in my last relationship. I also just lost a lot of friends in general, like female friends too, just because I didn't even realize how much, like how emotionally, mentally draining my ex-partner was. Like, if you would ask me during a relationship, like, this is the perfect relationship, we're having so much fun together. But like, when I look back and read my journal entries, I was such a sad person. I just didn't remember it like that, which is crazy. But yeah, I lost a lot, and also lost, I would say, every single one of my guy friends, because he was like, why are you talking to this guy? Why are you around him? But also at the same time, I was like, I don't need guy friends because I'm like getting my male like fixed. Like, I don't need more than one guy in my life. And actually, no, now that I think about it, like, I feel like then you become friends with like his guy friends. So like your guy friends kind of go to the side and then you like spend time with his guy friends instead. And yeah, so I don't know. It is interesting, but I feel like if you're going to be friends with a guy and you're both single or even in a relationship, like, you have to have such clear boundaries. Like, no, I'm not going to go get like a candlelit dinner with you, or like, no, I'm not going to go to a movie with you. But like, we can like go for a walk and like walk your dog around the block or something. Like, there's like different things that are like not romantic and doesn't give off like I'm not going to go and like hang out with you and sit on your couch like you're gonna watch a movie. Like, that's just weird.
Yeah, that's too Netflix and chill vibes. Like, I'd be like, well, what do you think is going to happen if I'm coming over to your house and hanging out just us two? Like, it's just too much of an invitation for him to think that there's something going on. So yeah, those boundaries are really important. I love that you've said that, because I think that with the hookup culture at the moment, and from what I hear and from what I remember, not that I've ever participated in it really, but there is that, well, I may as well, I'm single.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, he's kind of cute, whatever, let's do this. And then you're kind of in a state of, well, what does that mean now?
Yeah. I tried having that like for maybe like a month and a half, maybe a month, I don't know, but try and be like, oh, like I'm single, like I was in a foreign country, like I'm just gonna have fun with guys, and I was like, I'm
Yeah,
so
the foreign country
empowered.
thing.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so
What
empowered,
happens
like
here
this is
stays
like
here.
right. And then I just felt like crap like 2 days later, every time. And it was just like, why am I, this isn't empowering. This isn't liberating. This is like
Yeah.
giving a man access to like my most prized possession, like my body, like me, my womb. And like, why would I just give that to a man for what, like 10 minutes of fun? And the sex was probably mediocre to begin with anyways. Like yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm glad I had that phase, as short as it was, because now it's been like over a year of me having no interest in doing that, which feels good.
Yeah. And when you think about the work that you do, like what is it that you really love? What's your North Star for the business that you have?
Yeah, my North Star is I'm taking a break because I feel like I'm going to cry when I say this. So,
Oh, please do.
but
Do.
my North Star is the version of me. Like I think back to her all the time when I just found out I was like crying every single day. I was having panic attacks. I like thought it was my fault. Thought it was because like I wasn't worthy enough, because I wasn't attractive, because like I did something wrong, and like wanting to end my life because of it. And I think of that version of me, and I know there are so many women out there who feel the exact same way. And like I will make this my life mission, because I don't want any female to ever feel like that. I want her to know that like she couldn't have done anything to prevent it or stop it. It had nothing to do with her. Like this person is showing you a very big character flaw, and it's so important to believe it, because you have no idea how much it will escalate in the years to come. And I just like, it just breaks my heart thinking of all the girls who are having sleepless nights, who are waking up with night terrors, who feel like they can't even go out in public anymore or trust anyone, all because they knowingly they entered a relationship with a guy who promised to be nice, who promised to respect them, who promised to be loyal, and was the very opposite of that. And I have a support group for women, and it breaks, honestly, like they are my North Star. And all day I just see all these comments come in, and some days I'll have to turn it off because it's so many sad comments. And like I make sure like I read all of them, just because like I want to make sure everything's like, first of all, safe, and like people are safe. But just like I see so much of myself in every sad comment that comes through, like that version of me who just found out about the betrayal and felt so sad and hopeless. And I was like, I like to literally have the thought, like, I want to end my life because I don't think it is possible to come out of this pain. Like that's how deep
Yeah.
it is. Like it just makes me so mad that any girl has to go through that. So my North Star is seeing the women who are like in the thick of their pain and trying to be like, okay, how can I help you? And how can I let you know that like things get so much better? Like they get so much better. And like I always feel, I'm always so hesitant to say this because I don't want it to come across someone at the wrong part of their healing journey. Like looking back, I'm so thankful for everything this man put me through, because it changed my life in ways I never thought was possible. But I remember when I first found out betrayal, people would be like, something really good is going to come out of this. And I'd be like, fuck you. Like I
Yeah.
hate you right now. Like I'm in so much pain. I haven't slept in like 8 days. I wake up with night terrors every single night. Like, how dare you say something good is going to come out of this? But it's true. Like, and
It
that's what's
is.
so frustrating about, but it's also good. Like, it taught me how to use my voice. It taught me how to set boundaries. It taught me how to leave my unfulfilling job and start one that I was passionate about. It taught me how to like create new friends with females and like supportive, caring, like uplifting girls. It taught me how to find something that I'm passionate about. It helped me strengthen like relationships with my family members, with like every single aspect of my life was changed. Like I started eating healthier. I mean, I was already like a pretty healthy person, but like this was like a totally different level of healthy. And like now I get to pack up my life and I'm going to go travel the world and just be a digital nomad. Like that's something I've dreamed of my entire life. And none of this would have ever happened if I didn't meet that shitty man. And like, yes, like what they do is so painful, but it can get so much better. And it does get better. Like you have no idea how good life can get by removing this one toxic leech out of your life, and you have so much more energy to focus on yourself and be selfish about yourself and your time and your healing and your boundaries and your friendships. And yeah, so that's my North Star, is just thinking of like how bad I was or how bad I felt compared to like where I am now in life. And I want to get every girl from the trenches to like creating her dream fucking life. Like that is my goal.
As you were talking, I remembered a meme, and it kind of circles back to what we were kind of talking about at the beginning. I don't know if you've seen this meme, but it's basically this woman lying down on a, day bed. It's like an olden day kind of photo. This woman lying down on a day bed and someone standing over her with a brick in their hand. And it's basically saying, when you don't, when you miss all the signs from the universe, you're basically going to get hit in the head with a brick. And I think that every single time that we go through something really bad, like you were saying, you knew there were so many times that you knew something wasn't right and you didn't listen to the universe when it was trying to speak to you in whispers, that it literally needed to hit you over the head with something really terrible for you to change course in your life. And now you've put yourself on a path that is, you're living your best life. You're living something that you've obviously dreamed of for a really long time, but something that you probably didn't even know was possible for you because you just never thought of that.
No idea. Yeah, I never would have thought it was ever possible. And I do agree so much with what you said. Like, the universe will hit you in the face with a brick as hard as it can as a wake-up call to be like, hey, this is not the life I had planned for you. I have something so much better for you. And when I first found out about the betrayal, I was like, I don't like the universe. I don't like God. I don't like anything right now. Like, how could any of that exist if I'm going through something so painful? But now I look at it, I'm like, no, like the universe is just trying to protect you and be like, hey, we have a better life plan for you. Like, this is not it. Like, you're like having the enemy win. Like, this is like demonic what's in your life right now. We have something so much better for you. Like, we want to get you out and we're going to support you, and like you're going to get out. Like, that's how I view it now, where the universe is like, no, girl, like, this is not it. This is not the life I have for you. Like, it's going to be so much better.
Yeah. I mean, cutting the cord's never easy. You can't really cold turkey anything.
No.
You kind of need to wean yourself off most addictions in life. But when it comes to toxic relationships, you need to cut it, like cut. And that's what I think sometimes is really hard, because you're like, well, I had a life yesterday and today it's gone. And you have to make peace with that because, like you said, it's you're being put on a different path. And like, I love that. Look, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But if we had done all the healing work that we could be doing every single day and just practicing that, I think that we'd be better prepared to make choices in our lifestyle to walk away from things that we know aren't serving us, because we know better. And then after that, you'll know better then. Maya Angelou, what's her quote? When you know better, you do better. And I just, because that also kind of gives me relief that, well, 5 years ago, I didn't know better. Now I know better. And in 5 years' time, I'll know even better than I know now. So, yeah. I love that you've been put on the path that you've been put on. I would never have found you. Victoria Sinis is who connected us. And I'm so grateful that she did, because having, your Instagram, it's hilarious. So if you guys aren't following, I will share it eventually, and we'll talk about it later, where everyone can find you. But I love what you post, and I love the way that you post it. And I think to myself, had you known all the things that you know now, right, about yourself, about what it is about being a woman, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Trust your gut. Trust the little whispers. Like, I think I used to think gut intuition meant like it would be this huge, loud, like such clear voice, like getting hit in the face with a brick. But there's so many, like we've talked about, so many small whispers that come leading up to it. And like that repetitive thought that keeps going back to your head, like, should I check his phone? Should I check his phone? Like, is he hiding something? Like, that is your intuition literally screaming at you to wake up. But even aside from that, what advice would I give to my younger self? It's not your fault. Like, it is not your fault. And like I said earlier, like, there's nothing you could have done to prevent it or stop it. Like, you can't love someone and expect that to change them. Like, there's no amount of love you can give a person and hope that they change. Like, the way someone changes is like giving firm boundaries. And if that's not working, like, leaving, if that's the wake-up call they need. And I think also just advice, like, it will get better. Just focus on yourself. Like, be so selfish with your healing, with your time, with the people you allow in your life. Like, cut off relationships if it's not working. And going back to what you're saying earlier about how like cutting off relationships and people is hard. Like, yeah, it's really hard. It's really, 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 really hard. But like, once you do it, it gets so much easier the next time and the next time and the next time. And I feel like that would be another big piece of advice I would give, is just like, take the leap of faith. You're not going to know what things will look like a week from now, a month from now, 6 months. You have no idea, but take the leap of faith. Trust that there's something larger than you guiding you and that wants you to be the best version of yourself. And it's going to open doors so that you can become this best version of self. Like, the universe isn't trying to harm you or punish you. Like, it wants you to be the best version of you. And so it's going to give you all the steps to take to get there. Like, just trust that the doors will be opened.
Yeah. I really believe that our souls are here for whatever we're here to learn, and we're choosing this life, and we have to go through these things. It's just one of those, it's part of your growth journey to do that. And like if someone utilizes the pain and the trauma, they can actually turn it into an amazing life. Like, let it lead you into a place that really causes you to find who you are as a human being and who you want to be in the world that you're in the world that we're living in.
Yeah. Something I would also add to that about advice that just came to mind is, oh my gosh, what was it? Oh no. Whatever you're afraid of, like whatever sounds the most terrifying thing to you to do, like, go do that. Like, if you have an like idea, like a thought that you should leave, but it sounds so scary, leave. Or if you have the idea that like stepping out of your comfort zone sounds so scary, but like it might sound okay, do it. Like, whatever sounds absolutely terrifying to you, that's where you're going to find all your empowerment, all your confidence on the other side. So you're going to look back and be like, damn, I got through that, and look at everything I learned along the way, and look at how much better of a place it put me in. Like, I was thinking about speaking up about porn for probably like 3 months. Like, it was just eating at me, like every single day. I was like, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? But I was so afraid because I had no idea how people were going to perceive it online. Like, I was like, of course people are going to make so much fun of me. Like, no one talks about this. I was so terrified. And then I just started praying about it. I was like, hey, is this something I should start speaking up on? Like, can you just give me a sign that makes it so obvious? And then every time I do that, the next like day or two would just be these like such powerful signs where I'd be like, oh damn, shoot, I have to do this. And I didn't want to do it at all. Like, I had no desire to speak up on it, but I was like, someone has to speak up on it. And I feel like this is why I had to go through it, to speak up on it. So like, back to that point, if there's something you want to speak up on that you're afraid about it, just start speaking up about it. That is where you find your empowerment and the confidence. And that's when all the doors start to open too, because you've activated the life path that you want to be on, and the universe is like, okay, you want to make this world a better place, let's do it together. Let me like put all these people in your life, and let's go. Like, let's start.
Yeah. And the universe wants you to see if you're serious about it. Like, there's something really important in what you just said, right? I've heard so many women, especially women who are older, who are in relationships that make them absolutely miserable, but they don't want to leave because they're afraid of being alone. And I wonder to myself, like, what's worse? You doing whatever you feel like, or you being in this toxic relationship where you're not happy? I mean, look, I got married 1.5 years ago, and my husband is wonderful, and I'm so lucky that we have the same taste in a lot of things, but he also just lets me do whatever when it comes to the house. But one of the things I find when you move in with someone is you have to ask them, it's a joint decision for bed sheets. It's a joint decision for a dining table, and everything becomes a joint decision. You've got to include them in everything. And that for me is really hard because I'm someone that just gets on with it, right? So I make decisions, and, being in a relationship, or especially when you're living with someone, means that you have to take them into consideration. I'm like, let's get this moving. But, when I think of older women and how much I do hear them say, but, I'm never going to find someone. This is it for me. I'm like, you're literally 50. Like, I know people who have gotten married in their 60s. Like, enough. It's never too late. If you really want to be in a loving relationship, you've got to realize that no matter how many times you fail, it's, provided you're doing the healing work, it's literally setting you up for the best relationship of your life if you choose to create that.
Yeah, and that's such a good point too. Like I'll even speak to girls who are as young as 16 who are afraid to leave their partner because they're afraid of being alone and they don't think they'll find anyone better. So I love that you said that that's even happening to like women at 50. Like I think at every age of the woman's life, like going back to what I was saying earlier, like society just spoon fed us this lie that you have to be in a relationship in order to be
Yeah.
happy and to feel fulfilled. And you can have that without a man. And like the level of like happiness and fulfillment and joy that I feel now compared to when I was with my shitty ex is a day and night different. But I was so afraid to leave him for a long time because I was like, well, what if he is the one? And what if I mess up? And what if I never meet someone? It's like, okay, one, there's so many people in the world. Like there are so many fucking people in the world. You have no idea where you'll travel. You have no idea like what girlfriend you meet who might introduce you to someone. Like there's so many people. Like of course there's gonna be someone better, but also like that someone better is going to be you creating the life that you were meant
Yes.
to live instead of being in an unhealthy relationship that like we only have one life. It's such a short time to spend that unhappy in a relationship. Like, the world is so much bigger. And yeah, but yeah, back to what you're saying. That's just, it's so interesting how at any age of our life as women, we're like, oh, what if I don't find someone better? What if this is it? What if I mess up? What if I'm alone? Like I'm alone. It's actually great. Like it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
enjoyable.
The fact that it's a running theme in so many women just says to me that we're teaching young girls that being alone, that there's some sort of discomfort in being alone and that they should be afraid
Mm-hmm.
of being alone. Like I'm not saying go walk in a park at night. Like, that's not the kind of
Right.
alone that I'm talking
Right.
about.
No, no, no,
I'm
no,
talking
no.
about, yeah, just like find your passions. One of the things that I wish I did younger, if I was to give myself advice, and I funnily enough, I think about this, but I didn't think about it as deeply as I just did now, is that I would tell myself to spend less time worrying about what boys thought of me, which is what I was conditioned to
Yes.
believe was important, and more time
Yes.
trying to create the woman that I am. I didn't start
Mm-hmm.
creating the woman that I am until I got to my 30s. And I
Mm-hmm.
think to myself, yeah, I needed to go through all the stuff, but I could have been on this journey a lot earlier and
Yeah.
have developed a stronger sense of self. And then I wouldn't have gone through a lot of the things that I did in my 30s that I sometimes think to myself, seriously, you knew better. Like I knew better,
Right.
but I didn't listen because I thought it was me. I must be the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the common denominator. It must be me. So the advice that I would give myself is get on your journey sooner. Find who you are. Get comfortable being
Yes.
alone. Like those are such
Yes.
important things for a woman because you can't depend on people, male or female, whether it's your girlfriends, your mum, your dad, your partner. You can't depend on people to make you happy. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
find the things in your life that make you happy. What are your hobbies? What are your passions? Give yourself a North Star. Like it doesn't need to be your North Star forever, but have an
Yeah.
overarching purpose to your life and attach that to your happiness. Don't attach your happiness to that, you know?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I was 29 when I 29 or 28? I think 29. I was 29 when I found out about the betrayal and I started doing like personal development work probably a year before, but obviously nothing as heavy as after I decided to like leave after being cheated on. And now I look back at like every single man I have dated from like high school till 29. I'm like, I wouldn't have dated any of them had I been
Yep.
focusing on myself and focusing on my personal development. I wouldn't have had to gone through all that shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like we just make such healthier decisions when when we are working on our personal development, when we are on our healing journey, like when we're focusing on becoming the best version of us internally, not externally.
Yeah. And working on yourself doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means
No.
you're creating a different version of yourself. I mean, you would never have become this woman. Like, I would anticipate the guys would now be like, wow, she is just her confidence. You exude confidence. You have so much happiness in your face, Mandy. Like, you would never have become this version of
Good.
yourself. And everyone that's listening should really take this in. Like, self-development does not mean that there's something wrong with you. Self-development just means that you are choosing to love yourself in a way that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
before so that you can become the woman that you actually deserve to be, the woman who you really are inside.
Mm-hmm. It's the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and it feels like the most empowering, yeah, thing you can do. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
hard, obviously, and it's uncomfortable because you have to face a lot of like lies you've been telling yourself your whole life or overcome self-limiting beliefs. But when you look back at how far you've come, you're like, damn, I can do anything, and
Yeah.
it's such a good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, this is the perfect lead into the question that I ask all my guests, Mandy. What do you love about being a woman?
Okay, so I love being a woman so much, and growing up I always wanted to be a boy. Like I was like, they have life easier. They don't like, they just have to be good at playing sports and they're set for life. Like I was like, they just like, they never had to wear makeup, they don't have to dress up, blah blah blah. But like now I'm like, ew, I would hate being a boy. But I love being a woman because I love female friendships so much. Like the level of emotional depth and intimacy and just connection and just like platonic love that you give one another. Men don't get that. Like we talk about the male loneliness epidemic because like the average man has one close guy friend. That's absurd. Like, yeah, it's
Since
bizarre.
when?
I don't know since when, but if you Google the male loneliness epidemic, it's crazy. It's just
Wow.
how alone men feel, and women, we don't like. Yes, we can feel lonely, but like if I'm having a bad day, I could easily call up a friend and just start crying and letting her know like my fears and how bad I feel. And like a man to a man wouldn't do that to each other, really. Like when they have conversations, they're like, "How you doing? Good, good, okay." And like, you seen the game? Like it's just so, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love being a woman and just like, I used to hate anything that was feminine and like the color pink, and like I never wanted to like look like a girly girl at all. But now I'm like, that's our superpower as women. Like it is so amazing to be a woman and just like, as we've been talking about, our woman's in connection, like our connection to our womb. Like we are just so, we're like magical divine creatures in my opinion. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's fun just being able to be a girl and like you have your girl group chats and you just go out for brunch and you just talk and like, I don't know. It's just so fun. And I feel like men don't really get that.
No. And I mean, it's similar to you. I was like, I'm not going to wear pink because I don't want it to be obvious that I'm feminine. It's so
Yeah.
dumb. I don't want to be
Right.
obvious that I'm a girl. I don't want to be a girly girl. And then I think
Right.
now I'm like, women gravitate towards pink not because someone told us that pink is a girl's color. It's because if you think about our portal of creativity, which is our womb, it is the most beautiful pink you could ever
Hmm.
imagine. That is our
Yeah.
color because it is instinctively something that we gravitate towards. And the fact that we
Yeah.
just want to kind of brush it aside, oh no, pink is just it's a girly. No, there's this whole gender neutral color thing. I'm like, no, I'm claiming pink. I'm claiming pink. Pink is mine. I mean, I'm wearing pink today. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm channeling that feminine energy because it's like you said, being a girly girl is just, there is a sense of community in that,
Hmm. Yeah.
in being a woman.
Yeah, like I think about when I was in college and like I'd be out with friends like at a bar and we go to the girls' bathroom. Like the girls' bathroom was always such a nice, loving place of just girls being like, "Hey, your lip color is cute." Like, "Hey, I love your shirt." Just like chatting or being like, "What
Yeah.
man do we need to like punch tonight? Like who's like messing someone up?" Like not punch, but like, just like what girl do we need to protect? Like it's just such a safe community. And I also do feel bad because I know a lot of women have come across like unhealthy versions of women, so they have a bit of like a female wound there. But it's just, I feel like as you do the healing journey and personal development work, you're able to read people a lot better too. So it just kind of puts you in safer situations with people. But yeah, I love being a woman. It's so powerful and so profound. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Oh, I agree. I agree, Mandy. It was such a pleasure having you on the show today. I hope every woman and man listening to this has a moment of realization today that porn is not normal. Not all guys
Hmm.
do it. You don't have to do
Hmm.
it. You can find connection in other ways. Just be true to who you are. And for
Hmm.
women, turning a blind eye on your partner's addiction is literally turning a blind eye on your own self-worth. So standing up for yourself isn't crazy. It's setting
Hmm.
boundaries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree with all that so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This was such a good chat.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Please tell the listeners where they can find you and how they can work with you, Mandy.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at WTF Do I Do Now Coaching. I also have a private support group for women if you're healing from your current or past partner's porn use, and that's in my bio on both TikTok and Instagram. You can also always send me an email at mandy@wtfdoinow.com. And then I'm also launching a course in a few weeks, which I'm super excited about. Yeah, which is just going to basically be the whole healing journey I went on, and then what I also do with my one-on-one clients and everything I've learned in my women's empowerment and trauma-informed coaching. So yeah, I'm super excited about that, which will be really fun.
That's amazing. And if you are interested in connecting with Mandy, I will include in the episode description and across social links and ways you can do that. So if you haven't already, head on over to Spotify and Instagram and follow the Skin I'm In podcast to be the first to know when new episodes drop. Mandy, thank you so much for being a guest on the Skin I'm In podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
How fun is Mandy? It's crazy to think that a person as bubbly and self-aware went through something so horrible. Conversations like this one remind me just how much we as women put pressure on ourselves to be likable, to be agreeable, to fear being alone. And it's time we stop beating ourselves up for issues we have no control over, like the actions of others. For as long as we turn a blind eye on these behaviors, for as long as we say stupid things like boys will be boys and be the type of woman who will hook up with someone else's man, the more we give that behavior permission to exist and thrive. The older I get, guys, seriously, the more I realize our power is in sticking together. Don't be the girl who allows a man to engage in behaviors that make you feel uncomfortable. Speak up, say something, stand your ground. Don't be the woman who encourages someone else's man to cheat, whether they advance towards you or you advance towards them. I don't care how hot they are or what they've got. Just don't do it. And just don't be the girl who is out there trying to capitalize on the weakness of others for your personal financial gain. This is not me being judgmental on what people want to do to make money or get ahead in life. It's me asking you to develop self-awareness, self-love, and self-worth. Because let me tell you something, if you had any of those things, you wouldn't engage in this type of behavior, nor would you allow it. I'm asking you to love on yourself and set boundaries. We need to put an end to being treated with disrespect, and the only way to do that is by showing ourselves respect first. You cannot demand a person to treat you in any kind of way, in any kind of setting, how to treat you, unless you show them with your own actions by what you tolerate and how well you treat yourself, and the way in which you honor your values and show that you are not willing to sacrifice who you are to be seen, liked, or admired by people who really don't respect you. You will learn so quickly who is for you and who isn't when you start to set up boundaries, because let me tell you, people will treat you the way they want for as long as they can get away with it. And when they no longer can, they will drop away from your life like a bug that just died. I take my word for it, guys. I've been through this so many times. As soon as I've put a boundary up, bye-bye. They disappear. It's because I no longer allow them to treat me the way that they've been getting away with. And really, it is that simple and nothing to cry over. Do the self-development work, and I promise you, your BS filter will get so damn good at weeding out creeps that doors for real connection and joy will start to swing open in your life. And the smarter, more switched on you become, that means you will attract better opportunities for building real wealth and loving relationships without having to take your clothes off. If only you could see yourself the way those who love you see you. I wonder what that would change. With gratitude and grace, have a wonderful day.